All right, hello OAS family, brush painters, everybody out there in YouTube land. We are going to provide just a short introduction to today's video, and the reason I came up with the idea for this video was what I was recognizing was a lot of us were initially attracted to brush painting or Chinese brush painting because of the simplicity and the freedom that we saw somebody experiencing when they were demonstrating it. And so then we get about going to learn it, and what we find is if we're trying to learn it on our own, or even if we're in a class, we are finding a hard time connecting with that freedom. And if we're learning in a very structured environment, which I'm not opposed to structured learning at all, we're given the discipline of the strokes because the Chinese brush painting came out of calligraphy. And traditionally, the learning of calligraphy is a very, very structured system where you are painting, a very few strokes over and over and over again repetitively so that your body builds the skill necessary to render those strokes consistently. And basically, if you do it long enough, what happens is it becomes so much a part of the way that your body moves with the brush that you eventually find that freedom, and along with it you have tremendous skill. So most of the masters that you see painting nowadays, the very experienced painters, they went through this sort of very regimented process. But a lot of and if you're willing to go through that, there's nothing wrong with that approach, and that approach is very, very consistent in its results if you are able to, engage and keep going with a good attitude and get to the other side of it. But what I was wondering is there a way for a newer person to sort of access this freedom more quickly? And so I came up with this idea of, rather than learning strokes that you are unfamiliar with, so, a lot of us who are getting into Chinese brush painting actually never grew up with the discipline of calligraphy. And nowadays, less and less, whether you be in an Asian country or whether you are in a Western country, physically writing is becoming rarer and rarer. Everything's on computers nowadays. So the discipline of growing up practicing writing is becoming more and more foreign to people, especially as they get younger. So instead of going at it through this way that most people can't connect to, what if we just grabbed a brush, sat down in front of some magic paper, which allows you to paint over and over again with just water, and you just played around with the brush and found strokes that you could do naturally, strokes that had appeal to you, and strokes that, just seemed to flow from however you moved the brush in a natural way. And then what you did was you started noticing those strokes and refining them and building a library of them, and then those are the strokes that you took to your painting. So it's kind of like reverse engineering this a little bit, and it's starting with something that you're already good at, something that you're already doing very naturally, looking to refine that, and then looking to express that into a painting or a final composition, or even doing something really abstract and just playing around and making strokes and doing something that is sort of Zen art-like. So anyway, I hope you get value from this video, and make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And all right, we're gonna go ahead and start the demonstration, okay? Thanks. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of fun exploration on magic paper today, and I'm gonna be using a 3-inch wash brush. So the reason why I selected this brush is because I find it really versatile and good for abstract work and just times when you're being more playful and explorative, because the brush is really versatile and really unpredictable. So I like that. So I just set up this little workstation here. We got this piece of magic paper, and then I have a little bit of water in the square dish. And so there are two types of things that I usually do when I'm working with magic paper. The first thing is just exploration. And then the second thing is practice. So when I'm exploring, my goal is to figure out what I can do naturally with the brush that I find compelling and interesting. So you can see here, I can go straight across with the wash brush, but when I turn it on its side, I can also do these thinner type strokes. And as I turn the brush and I'm doing this stroke, I naturally get texture. So these are all very interesting things that I can do with the brush, and I can actually collect these things into kind of a library of strokes. And so when I'm doing this, I'm looking for something sort of compelling and interesting to me, and then once I zero in on it, then I will remember what I did for those strokes, and then when I'm doing a more focused or structured practice-oriented session on the magic paper, I will practice those strokes specifically and do those strokes in a more refined way so I can get them to be more predictable, and I can sort of sharpen them as a tool for actually painting a composition or a painting. So you can see here I'm just trying to use all of the magic paper up to maximize the amount of practice that I get out of this session, and using it to kind of just play and noticing things that are fun, notable, things that I want to try to remember. And that's basically how it works. All right, so we're going to do some demonstrating on how we use this 3-inch wash brush on raw Shuen paper to paint some bamboo trunks. So you can see I have a simple painting setup here. I'm using the raw double Shuen, vintage double Shuen AO, and I selected this paper because it is of our more economical raw papers. It has good moisture forgiveness. So if you're looking for Shuen paper, obviously the best moisture forgiveness is our premium jade plate double Shuen, but that one is a pricier paper. So we have this new vintage double Shuen AO, and it has very good moisture control, and it's fairly economical. So I'm going ahead and rinsing off my brush here, and going to make sure that I sort of brush it against the side of the water bottle so that it's fairly dry. And then I have a square dish here that I put mostly water in and put a little bit of a few drops of ink in there to make sort of a light colored ink. So I'm going to load my light colored ink in that dish. Again, just sort of brushing off the sides here to get rid of the excess moisture. And then I'm going to touch the very edges of the brush with pure ink. Okay, and once I do that, I'm going to go to my mixing plate, and I'm going to just rub in a little circular direction so I can get the colors sort of blended together. And then we're going to go ahead and do that stroke. So I'm just going to set the pressure and come down, set the pressure and come down. And then I can do one more. Every time I do this, I kind of like to paint the brush dry, because you'll see you'll see the varying moisture levels. Okay, and actually each one of these could be good for a painting. You can see here, this one was a little bit wet. I probably should have moved a little bit more decisively because as the stroke got drier, as I pulled the stroke down, the stroke was very, very nice, but I just probably took too long, was a little bit too hesitant when I applied there, and so I got a little bit more running that I would like, but still, you know, I wouldn't be too upset if that was, you know, a final painting. And then you can see here, it's much drier on this second time around, but still nice. You get really that sort of texture that's very signature to bamboo, and you're still getting, you know, the different colors and the dark ink on the edges. And then this third one is super dry, but also pretty interesting. So all three are acceptable. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to sort of rinse off my brush, then load the lighter ink. And then the darker ink. And then I'm going to blend the brush. All right, so you can see here, once again, we got a different variation. That's kind of what is so fascinating about brush painting, is how much variety you can get with the similar techniques and these small changes. You get like very, very different looking strokes, but they're all kind of interesting in their own way, and they would all make great bamboo trunks. You know, it just depends on what effect you're going for. So that's basically how we can use this 3-inch wash brush to create bamboo trunks. All right, so I'm going to change out my paper now, and we're going to do some abstract painting so we can sort of have a little bit more fun with the brush and show you sort of how to explore with the brush, make your own strokes, and do something fun, abstract, and exciting. All right, so I got a fresh piece of paper now, and I'm gonna go for just a little bit of fun, abstract strokes. And the first one's gonna be sort of practice, and then the second one, I'm going to do something that could be kind of like a final composition. So when I do this, I try to use the same idea as when I'm doing the bamboo trunk. So I do want a variety of colors within a single stroke. So I still want to show that variety. So I'm still going to load the light ink on one side, but instead of having the darker ink on both sides, I'm just going to do it on one side this time. Okay. And then I can sort of blend the brush there. So then I decide which side I want my sort of darker side on. So now I'm going to have it on the bottom, and I'm just going to do like a stroke like that. So you can see I've got a little bit of variety, you know, and I can paint with the edges, and I can get textures. Okay, so you can see here that as I'm working this brush and as I'm turning it on its edge, I'm getting different textures, and it's quite unpredictable, but all of them are actually kind of neat looking, and they're all kind of interesting looking. And I'm not going to worry too much about what's happening compositionally right now. I'm just practicing. So I'm going to fill up the paper. So once again, I'm going to do my loading, get the light ink on, and then get the edge with darker ink, a little bit more assertive this time with the edge, and then some blending, and then so then you can see here when I go over the other strokes, there's also a certain effect that you have. But you know, once again, I'm not really worrying too much right now. When we do the composition, final composition, you'll see that making a final composition happen in this is a lot about editing, knowing when to stop. But right now, I'm just getting a feel for the paper and making sure that I'm doing the strokes with freedom, doing them assertively, and get full value from all of my paper, you know, by trying these different strokes. All right, so we got our fresh piece of paper, and now we're going to do something that's not practice, but that's more like a final composition with the same technique, just trying to do something dynamic, something abstract. So again, I'm going to load my light colored ink, and then the dark ink on one side. And then I'm going to blend the brush. So I think that's it. So you can see the difference between the practicing and the final composition was just trying to find a point at which I wanted to stop before it started to look too crowded, too messy, too unintentional. I could have stopped really at any point. This was kind of enough, but felt like, oh well, I'm going to do one more, and then finishing it off with like that. And so these are all strokes that I developed, you know, through my own work with the magic paper, just having fun. And I noticed how versatile this brush was. You know, we could do these flatter strokes. We could turn the brush and get these sort of ribbon type strokes, turning the brush. We could do these kind of thinner strokes with the edge of the brush, and we could show texture very easily. So I hope you enjoyed our little session with the 3-inch wash brush. Remember, if you want your own 3-inch wash brush, you can pick it up at our website, Oriental Art Supply. And hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this, and we will talk to you soon, and happy painting.